Now we have little bit of understanding how to write test cases, unit test cases for a controller class. But there can be more complex scenarios in the real world. Like your controller class is having a dependency with another class, and then that class has dependency with another class, which means in a layered architecture, one layer calls another layer. So let's go ahead and see how we can write test cases for those scenarios. So let me close this file and we are going to go ahead and write the test for property controller. You see, in our property controller, when we want to write the test for this class, it has a dependency that another layer, which is this one, property service, is getting in between. So we have to see how to solve these kind of problems. So let's go ahead and first try to write a test. So I will go to source test. In the controller, I'm going to say property controller. I will right click, refactor, rename, copy, and I'm going to say property controller test. That's the name I will give. Remember to give the name as test either at start or at the end because Maven runs only those files as test which are either terminating with test or has test in their name. So those files will be automatically used for running for test. So now again we have to say at the rate extends with and then we will say Mockito extensions extension dot class. That we have to do always like we did here in this class as well. So if we go at the top we see this we have done that. So now Mockito is going to take care of the test running of the test. Next thing is what do we want to test? So I'm going to go to the controller and I'm going to say I'm going to test this. Hello. This is just very simple test, so I will ignore this. Let's go ahead and try to test this. Save property. So I'm going to go to controller and I'm going to say void test save property method. Let's put this way, save property. And now I'm going to annotate this with at the rate test and I'm going to say at the rate display name test success scenario for saving new property. So this is a scenario where the user creates a property and it has to be saved in the database. And we know that first thing that we have to do is the class which we want to test, which is in our case private this controller property controller, we have to make sure that class reference is declared here. So we'll say property controller property controller and make sure to annotate this class with annotation as auto wired. Otherwise, sorry, we don't have to do it auto wired, we have to use inject mocks. Otherwise, this class will not get memory. So Mockito is going to create a proxy object for this and proxy object of our controller of property controller and inject it to our property controller test file. So this is what it will do. It's going to create an instance of this and it's going to inject it in our test class so that we will not get a null pointer exception. Perfect. So now what I can do is I can call property controller dot save property. But what I observed is the save property here, this method takes a para argument. So let's create that. So we'll say property DTO, property DTO equal to new of property DTO, and we have to set some values. Let's say DTO dot set. For now, I'm going to just set a property title, dummy property. This can be any random value, dummy property. And now I can pass this value here. And what I should expect is if everything is going fine, then I'm going to get this value. So let's see. We are going to receive this response entity with the status of created and this. So let's copy this, go and paste it here. We put an equal to. So we know that whenever data gets saved in our database, it automatically generates the ID for us. This ID will be automatically generated because it comes from our entity here, and the JPA is going to create it for us. So what will be the assertion for this? Assertion should be, the best assertion should be assertions dot assert not not null, and we should pass response entity dot get of body, which is going to give us the DTO dot get of ID. So this ID should not be null. That's our assertion. So let's go ahead and run this test and see what is going on. So let me run it for you and we will see the outcome. So the test will definitely fail. And why? It says null pointer where inside the property controller line number 30. So you can click here, it will take you there. So what happened? This value became null. Is it? Let's check. So I will put a debug point here and now run my test in the debug mode. So just click on it and say debug test save property. Alright, now we are here. Where are we? We wrote our test in our property controller test class. Perfect. And we want, why we wrote the test here? Because we want to test the property controller. So we have to take the property controller, put it inside our property controller test file and say inject mocks. Otherwise we will get null here itself. In this class, in the test class itself, here it would have become null. But as we said inject mocks, Mockito is going to create a proxy object of our property controller and inject it into the property controller test class. Perfect. So this is no more null and this got called. So it called a property controller.save method with the value of the DTO we asked. Alright, so now it came here. And now here it's stopping. But now, interestingly, from this method, there is a call to another layer, which is property service. And this property service is here, but injected here, auto wired by Spring. But Spring is not handling this whole application. It's Mockito who is handling it while doing the run out of the test because we are using Mockito for testing JUnit and Mockito. So now Mockito is not aware that there is a dependency in this class for which it has to give memory to. That's why it's null and hence we got null pointer exception from here. So if I resume this, it will return a null pointer exception because this value is null. So let me resume it and show you. So we get a null pointer exception. Perfect. So this is as per our expectation. So how do we solve this problem? Let's see that in the next video. Thank you.